Hi, I'm Pastor Steve Talmage at Love of Christ Lutheran Church in Mesa, Arizona. Each week, Pastor Nanette Christofferson or I try to provide a brief introduction to two of the assigned Bible readings. We're going to take a look at the first reading, the lesson from Isaiah 56, verse 1, verses 6 to 8. This is for Sunday, August 16, 2026. Historical context. As mentioned in previous lessons on Isaiah, most Bible scholars divide Isaiah's long history and that's covered in the book into three different sections, calling them 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Isaiah. So our lesson for this week is put in 3rd Isaiah, and it's post-exilic. The exiles have returned, they're rebuilding community, they have questions of who they are and who's welcome and who should be included. And temple worship is restored. It takes a while to rebuild the Temple of Solomon that had been destroyed by the Babylonians, but it gets restored and they begin to establish worship in the temple. But there are tensions. There's tensions remaining within this community as they try to figure out what this new chapter, this next chapter, will be like. So Isaiah sets the tone. Verse 1, maintain justice, do what is right. That's my salvation. The covenant life joins faith and justice. This was a problem in the past. Though people went through the motions of worship, there was severe injustice. You had the rich ignoring the poor. You had compromises being made with regard to living out what was fair and true and right for the sake of the common good, for the sake of the community. God's salvation is near and it calls for faithful living. Grace leads to lives of justice and mercy. When we have discovered that God has provided everything, God has done everything for us, and everything we possess, have, enjoy is a gift, it allows us to live a life of generosity and equitability, and also recognizing we have gotten what we don't deserve, and that is something that we're called to offer to others. Verse 6, foreigners joining themselves to the Lord. This commentary provides a witness that Gentiles are now welcomed. And we know that when Ezra and Nehemiah came back and they began to rebuild the walls and the temple, you had people married, intermarried between various people groups because they were living in exile. They were living in a foreign land, and then the hardcore group in the Israelite returnees said you need to divorce those foreign brides or foreign husbands, and you need to only be purely Jewish in your identity or Israelite in your identity. But here Isaiah casts this vision as they rejoin in the practice and worship of God in the new temple being rebuilt. They are to welcome Gentiles. That God is a God of everyone. Worship, prayer, and Sabbath is emphasized. There is no way a person can understand who God is and what God has done without entering into community and acknowledging and recognizing and hearing and receiving the gifts of God declared. Prayer acknowledges with humility that we are dependent on someone greater than ourselves. Setting aside time to worship, to remember, to rest, to be renewed spiritually, taking Sabbath time is an acknowledgement that God will provide, that God will take care of us. So God's people are defined by faithfulness, not ethnicity, but within this new beginning, you're going to see the doors open much wider, and worship, prayer, and Sabbath are to be a priority. Verse 7, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples. The temple envisioned for all nations. I got a picture here of the Church of All Nations outside of Jerusalem. And it's just a reminder that from the very beginning, all the way back to our creation, where all human beings are created in God's image, and then in Genesis 12, when God calls Abraham to form a nation out of his ancestors, they were to be a blessing to the world, so that all might be blessed and come to know the God who created us, loves us, is with us always. Jesus later quotes this passage. And within our own tradition of the ELCA, there's a huge emphasis on radical hospitality. The challenge is we say all are welcome, but what does that really mean? That all often gets confused. And in my sermon on 5th of July, I emphasize one of the tensions in our history as a country is in the Declaration of Independence, where it says all men are created equal. But we know those original words were interpreted to mean all men like us, who are white, landowners, and slave owners. So we need to recognize that even though we say the words or even write down the words, living into this vision of all people worshiping the creator of the universe and coming to know the unconditional love of the one who created us is a challenge. Verse 8, God gathers Israel and others. Again, restoration extends beyond Israel. God's mission is expansive and ongoing. So we get this picture of the earth in this slide, and it's a reminder, as astronauts say, in space there are no borders. There's just one planet filled with all sorts of people, and God loves them all the same. So Lutheran themes in this little lesson is justification by grace creates lives of justice. When we know we have been saved by unconditional love and forgiveness, we haven't done anything to deserve it. We haven't done anything to earn it. It moves us to recognize who are we to judge others, and how do we respond to others who are getting what they don't deserve or what they haven't earned. Grace changes everything. And then we hear in 3rd Isaiah, we hear as God is bringing people back into the promised land, reestablishing the temple, the city of Jerusalem, that is more than just Israel having a second chance. It is God's intent that all would be welcome in God's temple, that all would be welcome and that welcome would be extended, particularly to those that again we are tempted to think are less than, unworthy, or unacceptable. And Jesus will reiterate that as he lives in the flesh among us, teaches his parables, and forms and shapes his disciples to take this mission to the world. Church participates in God's gathering mission. We are a part of this inclusive, grace-driven operation. And the way that it's going to be experienced is when justice and mercy are extended, not just on our behalf, but on behalf of our neighbors. Thanks for watching. God bless as you prepare for worship. Take care.